How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to Gard-N Scale Crucible. Thank you so much for stopping by my little corner of the internet. And today I'm going to do something I don't think I've ever done before, and that is a true track test of a fairly new product. Over here, I've got the essentially brand new Kato N-Scale 4014 Big Boy, which is a magnificent model that I'm sure a bunch of other YouTubers have already done incredible justice to in terms of their reviews of it, so I will not add to what they've already said about the molding quality, the parts quality, or the build quality, because it is Kato. We already know it's going to be pretty good. What I do want to show is whether or not it will actually operate on an M1 starter track curve. Now, if I've read my information correctly, which could be suspect, the radius for the M1 starter packs is about 11 inches, maybe a little more than that. So the total circle is just under 2 feet in diameter, and that looks to be pretty accurate. However, on the outside, I have the Kato V6 outer oval track, which I believe, if I read that also correctly, that's about a 13-inch radius, so a little over 2 foot is the diameter of that circle. So what I'm gonna do more accurately, is test the Kato Big Boy on both track radii. Kato has specified that they've designed and built 4014 in order to be able to handle their smallest and tightest mass production curves, which is the M1 radius, the starter set radius of about 11 inches. So all I've done so far with this test setup is verify that I do have power to the track, and I'm hoping I have every single one of these axles on the track. We're gonna find that out the hard way as we get her spun up and get her moving. Again, this is the M1 starter track radius. So far looking pretty good. Now you can see from the camera angle, it looks like the nose of the locomotive does swing out pretty wide to the neighboring line. But looking from the front, the overhang isn't quite as pronounced. And Kato's claim is verified. Big Boy will operate smoothly and efficiently on the M1 starter track radius. Now for the next major hurdle. With these smaller, tighter radii, will 4014 clear traffic on a neighboring line? Kato says yes. I believe them to be accurate, but let's see. It gets mighty close, but it still rolls through. Let's look for opportunities to create a problem, shall we? I've got my FEF3 in the 838 freight scheme running here. Let's let them ride here a moment and see if these two steam locomotives decide to have a problem anywhere along this micro layout. Obviously, considering what Kato does for their engineering, the odds of there being any issues between these two locomotives on opposite tracks, especially when 4014 is on the narrower inside gauge, or I should say the narrower inside radius, I think we can all pretty much take it to the bank. That's not going to happen. But it's one of those things where it's kind of fun to see, okay, well, are they actually telling the truth? No harm in verifying it, because all it does is boost their credibility. Because Kato already makes some of the very best N-scale products on the market. Their locomotives are essentially second to none in terms of their reliability and durability. And of course, their pulling power is outstanding. But to see this monstrous 4884 locomotive model running tighter circles than an FEF3 it's wonderful. It is so cool. Kato, obviously, we knew was going to do an excellent job with their product, and they certainly have. As per usual, the Centipede tender has the same articulated rear two trucks as those on the FEF3. Same model, maybe they just updated the exterior shell to reflect the accuracy of 4014 in her current configuration. But even so, looking for problems with these two locomotives, not finding any. Kato performs as advertised. And for those of you out there who are really tight on space and essentially have just your kitchen table to work with when it comes to running some trains every now and again, you can take it to the bank that the Kato N-Scale 4014 will run on very tight track. One thing I do want to highlight is that at least on the track that I've got with this MRC power supply, I've got 4014 on this dial and 838 on this dial. They're running comparable speed. I think if I was to be a little bit more judicious, I think the FEF is just a hair slower, but still, the 4014 model has dual coreless motors, and if the speeds they're running are identical, and I know they're not, there's just a bit of variation, kind of eyeballing it here. 4014 is a little more thirsty for current than 838 is. Now 838 is running the old style, regular core motor, and of course 4014 has dual coreless. So to run similar speed, 4014 does appear to need more power, at least with this particular power supply. But even so, it doesn't appear to have any trouble, and at about 50% throttle, just under, it seems to be running very much scale in appearance. Like, this looks like about as fast 4014 would actually go on the rails during excursion runs. Maybe, you know, a touch faster or a touch slower depending on the restrictions that the crew is operating under, in order not to interfere too much with Union Pacific's regular freight timetables or any commuter rail timetables. But still, might need a little more juice, but at the same time, it's essentially all new architecture, dual motors, not just one big one. So the extra need for power is extremely forgivable, because compared to a very much tried and true Kato model, the FEF3, the extra need for power is negligible overall, at least in my opinion. I would have been remiss had I done all this work to set up this track test and I did not take the opportunity to put some rolling stock behind each of these locomotives and let them run for a little while I just let them ride and enjoy the sight and the sound. I do want to make special note that because the surface that this track is on is essentially a finished wood tabletop, not foam or any sort of cork track bed or anything else, that's why it is noisier. It's why these locomotives sound like old Concord units. For those of you who understand what old Concord units sound like, you know what I'm talking about. This is just the fact that it's a hard surface. There's no padding or insulation underneath either train. It's just regular hard, unfinished, well, correction, uninsulated surface. But even so, both locomotives are running very clean, very smooth, no muss, no fuss, which is to be expected from Kato. But another note I want to make is my track here. The re-railer pieces come with each of the track packs. The one on the inside, of course, comes with the M1, and this is the V6 re-railer. They're the exact same piece, nothing different about them. But featured in the M1 is this little spacer piece. The M1 starter pack comes with this spacer that will let you connect these two rear pieces together so that you have a consistent space in between your two tracks. And if you did not know that about Kato Unitrack, well, now you do, and it is my great pleasure to bring that little piece of joy to you, especially if you're looking to expand your railroad hobby or get into it. That is something to be very mindful of. And the other benefit is this is the power pack, or the power connection track from the Kato V11 double track set. And instead of running the two individual pieces of track with their power connections, I already had this piece set up ready to go. I just went ahead and grabbed that out of my V11 set, and you can see obviously that this whole test, neither locomotive or any of their rolling stock has had any problem crossing over either of these connections. And as an added bonus, because of the stability implicit in these two pieces with their unified dimensions and their, shall we say, certified spacings, there's not been any issue at all on the other side of the loop, where I've been able to essentially, without any form of regulated spacing or any sort of assistance in the spacing, been able to ensure good, safe distance between both of my trains. It would have been smarter for me to put one of these two connection components on the other side, just for the little bit of extra stability in the two loops, but it wasn't an absolute necessity, as you can tell. And even through the curves on one side or the other, still no issue, still no problems, even with 4014's considerably large overhang and swing. But because of the way they have this locomotive articulated, even with another very large sized steam locomotive operating on an inside loop, or as the case was earlier, an outside loop, there was never any real danger of collision. It just looks like it's really close to collision, but in reality, the safety margin is comfortable enough. Now, at some point, hopefully I'll be able to put this locomotive on the same layout with my friend and his locomotive, his 4014 model, and we can run them opposite each other and see whether or not there might be risk of collision there. Which, of course, if there's no risk of collision here, the odds of there being a risk of collision anywhere else on same size or larger diameter track is, of course, 0. But it's going to look pretty cool. Anyway, my friends, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this presentation helpful. And if you're looking to invest in some Kato Unitrack, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of options in preset packages you can acquire, as well as purchasing track on a piece-by-piece basis. Thank you again for watching, and have a nice day.